Hey, what's up, fam? This video is about Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has gathered a whole lot of investor attention this year. There was the fourth halving earlier in the year, and also the fact that the ETFs were launched. Plenty of catalysts to take that cryptocurrency through to the yearly high of 73K before it stabilized. Now, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, a digital currency that's outside of anybody's control person, entity, government. If you want to know more about what Bitcoin is, I suggest you do some Google searches or YouTube videos. Coindesk may be a great resource. The fact that the presidential elections are coming up will only add to the volatility of the cryptocurrency. So, this video focuses on the ways to trade Bitcoin and goes deeper into one of those methods. So, I'll see you guys in the following sections. So, what are the different ways that you can buy and sell Bitcoin? Well, first, you can go to Coinbase or Kraken and buy and sell Bitcoin there. You can also buy and sell Bitcoin on brokerage firms like Robinhood, E-Trade. Those first two methods are a little bit more expensive because of the transaction fees. You can also buy and sell the ETFs. So there's about 10 ETFs or so, or probably a few more. They're a little bit more cost efficient in the first two methods. Or you can buy and sell options on those ETFs. They're cheaper than the first two methods for sure. There's a fifth method which I've found useful, which is an arbitrage. So you find out the ratio, which is a good ratio to enter the trade for that particular security, and then you exit the trade when the ratio gets to that particular level, and then you invest in BTC. I found that method to be one interesting and also very successful and also very efficient. So, in order to do that, first, it's important to understand the entire dependency ecosystem of Bitcoin. I largely separated them into three areas. You've got Bitcoin in the middle, and then you've got on the right hand side, so going clockwise, you've got the miners. So you've got Marathon Holdings and Riot Blockchain and Clean Spark and these guys that actually mine the cryptocurrency. They're definitely trading because their price is also their stock price is also relative to the price of Bitcoin. That's one method. The other method is an actual company that holds Bitcoin as a reserve as part of the treasury management policy. Now, the one that's been possibly in the news for the longest time, or probably two, are Tesla and Block. Block added Bitcoin trading to to their Square Cash App users, where you could buy and sell Bitcoin, and they essentially buy and sell Bitcoin themselves. Although lately they've not been in the news for that for Bitcoin. It's been quite some time since Block's really been in the news for anything related to Bitcoin. Same goes for Tesla. Tesla was in back in the day they were talking about Bitcoin as a form of cryptocurrency to buy and sell cars, possibly as a form of payment. There's a third company. Again, Tesla has not been in the news lately for from Bitcoin standpoint at all. There's a third company which is called Microstrategy, which was founded by an individual named Michael Saylor, and that MicroStrategy company is what this video is really all about. This company currently holds the most amount of Bitcoin than anybody else, and they have a very clear treasury management strategy to use Bitcoin as a store of value, and they regard that as the most prudent way to hold currency than cash. Then you've got the other sections of the chart. So go into the other block, which is Coinbase, Robinhood, and Kraken. Now I think Coinbase is quite um, correlated to the price of Bitcoin. The stock price is correlated to the price of Bitcoin, not as much as MicroStrategy though, and definitely not Robinhood or Kraken. So that's what this video is all about. And so let's get into MicroStrategy in a second. So if you go on their website, MicroStrategy's website, you'll find that MicroStrategy is a data analytics company. Their core product is a BI analytics platform, so kind of similar to Tableau that's owned by Salesforce. And then they have like chatbot features, and you can, if you are integrated with MicroStrategy, then you can essentially ask questions that are data related, and you can get answers about your sales, your conversions, and so on and so forth, a whole lot of other things. Their solution is pretty much applicable in many of the large industries there. Then there is this spiel about Bitcoin, and so if you go into Bitcoin is hope or Bitcoin for corporations, you'll see that there's a lot of posts out there about Bitcoin. In fact, there's a blog post that's completely dedicated to Bitcoin. If you go into Bitcoin for corporations, there's also a lot of spiel about Bitcoin, and you can understand, kind of get the sense of how much this company believes in Bitcoin as an asset, and they don't hide behind that. It's very much part of their treasury management policy of buying Bitcoin. If you actually visit their if you actually visit their investor relations deck, it talks about Bitcoin, MicroStrategy being a Bitcoin development company, and them holding a portion of their treasury in the form of Bitcoin, and in fact, even drawing on debt to purchase Bitcoin. They have also what's a very interesting chart to me is that their the way they look at this, the yield on that investment is that 2024 year to date they have a 12% yield between the ratio between Bitcoin holdings and how many shares they've had to dilute over that same period of time. And that yield they expect to be in the range of 4 to 8% in the future. Although all having said and done, it's very clear that MicroStrategy's stock price is actually very disconnected from the core fundamental operations of the business. So if you do a price to earnings ratio of MicroStrategy, or you do a discounted cash flow on MicroStrategy, I don't believe you'll get to their stock price valuation at all. Although MicroStrategy does trade to a ratio on Bitcoin, and that's what this video is really all about. They also talk about how they've grown their Bitcoin portfolio. So currently they stand at 226. Is it 226,000 coins of Bitcoin, which equate to, I believe, um, there is a website out there which tracks treasury. So MicroStrategy amounts to around the largest holder of this cryptocurrency. It amounts to 53% of their market cap, so 54% of their stock market cap, and they hold more than 1% of the cryptocurrency. So phenomenal investment in Bitcoin, and they've they've manifested the Bitcoin story and their treasury management story over the last many years and quarters. This is not the first year. They started buying Bitcoin back in, I believe, even back in 2012 or even before that. Looking at the Bitcoin price action this year as well, these black pillars are the halving pillars. So the last halving was in March of 2024, and the one before that was sometime in 2020. Now, as if you compare what had happened around the 2020 timeframe, the price of Bitcoin started to rise as the halving neared. There was a little bit of a pullback, although I think we can say it's a little bit from where we stand today, probably a little bit more dramatic at that point in time. And then it sort of carried through. Then there was the COVID. We sort of entered the COVID era. Pretty much all of it was the COVID era, and the price then started to really rise. Stimulus payments, interest rates were cut, and that really led the Bitcoin story to succeed. And it reached intraday highs, all time highs during that period. Now, since that point in time, and since the post COVID era, there was a massive pullback, and everyone sort of questioned the real case for owning Bitcoin, and bears were very rampant at that point, until later into 2023, and then when the halving was nearing again. When the halving was nearing again, and there was another catalyst in that ETFs were launched. So, start of 2024, the ETFs were launched, and then they reached all time. They reached yearly high. Sorry, 74K, and then they've kind of stabilized since then. Now, if you compare that Bitcoin pattern to MicroStrategy, so MicroStrategy is in the blue, Bitcoin's in the red. Bitcoin's on the left hand side of the axis and MicroStrategy on the right hand side, you'll see that the pattern is very, very identical. It's almost a mirror image, and I'd say that correlation is even more significant. In as you can see, this year Q1's correlation is 9.96, a very, very high correlation of MicroStrategy's stock price to Bitcoin. In Q2, we had a little bit of a period where the correlation fell a little bit, although Q3 was back to 0.92. So overall, we're definitely in the green. MicroStrategy 100% moves very close to Bitcoin stock price. And the catalyst for Bitcoin, as we discussed, with the BTF, the BTC ETF, fourth halving. Then there was all this cryptocurrency conference as well, which was down here somewhere. And the day that Trump spoke at the cryptocurrency conference, that Sunday, cryptocurrency reached another wasn't a high, but it reached a good price. And then there was a sell on the news again, kind of an instance. MicroStrategy, on the other hand, so what are the catalysts for MicroStrategy? Around this point, MicroStrategy announced that it bought Bitcoin. So somewhere around Q1 of 2020, I believe end of February of 2024, they then announced debt and very clearly said we're going to go and buy Bitcoin for the most part out of the debt. They also announced the 1% ownership, so the highest amount of ownership of anybody else in the world of Bitcoin. And at that point, the stock really moved very close to Bitcoin's in terms of ratio. At that point, then when Bitcoin pulled back, then at that point I'm seeing this as well, is this the little bit of pessimism, a little bit of pullback as well. And then you had a little bit of a period where the distance between the ratio fell to the price of Bitcoin. That's why you see this thing in yellow. Since that point in time, MicroStrategy's stock has actually performed pretty well. They announced the split, so there was more than that, just the Bitcoin's price being a catalyst. A stock split essentially has more than institutional investors. So retail investors are able to buy the stock just because of the stock price. Many see it as a great covered call strategy because if you own 10 of MicroStrategy, it instantly covers to 100. You can sell calls the next day, which you probably weren't able to do so before because you needed 100 of something to sell anything. And then at that point, and then usually when you see a split, someone announces a split, that's when the stock starts to go up. A lot of times it then pulls back after the split or around the split. Recently, so I think on Friday they again announced that they bought some more Bitcoin, and the ratio then started to move in that direction as well. To me, this is that trade that you really want to get your hands across, of exposing or exploiting the ratio of MicroStrategy to Bitcoin. So my philosophy is this: if I'm seeing MicroStrategy if I'm seeing Bitcoin fall, my sense is that, and Bitcoin clears some technical hurdles to the downside, I usually see MicroStrategy falls by quite a lot because investors basically pull back. And should this additional Bitcoin purchase not being an event, there's more reasons for MicroStrategy stock to pull back even harder. I see a ratio of around 23 to 24 as a great ratio to enter a MicroStrategy trade, and exit at a point where Bitcoin's at a particular high as well. And you have then two options. You've gained on MicroStrategy's ratio already, so you've built a multiple advantage of MicroStrategy. As you can see over here, when Bitcoin was around this sort of 58K level over here, MicroStrategy's ratio was around the 20. I believe this is around 22, or something around 22, or less than 22. And 22 is in 22 bips. And then when Bitcoin went up, MicroStrategy's ratio went up even higher. So MicroStrategy rose at a multiple than Bitcoin. At that point, you have two options. One, you sell MicroStrategy and you straight away buy Bitcoin because you've already gained a little bit of arbitrage opportunity over there, or you sell MicroStrategy, you hold the gains, you wait for a Bitcoin pullback because that is this year has shown that, all things constant. And when I say that, I'm saying There's no immediate news of political events clearing some regulation or things of that nature. um, you would expect that Bitcoin is it's not just going to move in one direction. You're going to get a chance of a pullback, and all those things are relative, obviously. But that is the second option you've got, is to wait for that Bitcoin pullback to happen and then you buy Bitcoin. Then you keep doing the same for MicroStrategy, and at that point, if Bitcoin actually falls really hard, then you again buy MicroStrategy and don't buy Bitcoin. Then you wait for that increase and then you multiply that into or translate that into Bitcoin. That is a trading philosophy that I've found very, very successful. And that's something that is, yes, you're buying Bitcoin, so you're still paying that transaction fee, but you're definitely getting that multiple effect or multiplier effect that you're not getting in an ETF or anything like that. So, how has Bitcoin performed relative to macro indicators this year? So, the 10-year yield is in the red, and Bitcoin's in the blue. As the 10-year yield and the market's expectations of what the Feds might do has increased or decreased, Bitcoin has somewhat behaved in the opposite direction, headed in the opposite direction. So, in towards sort of the March timeframe, April timeframe, when the 10-year yield fell from the highs of about 5% towards Q4 of 2023, the price of Bitcoin went up. Obviously, there were other catalysts as we saw in the prior sections, but the 10-year yield is just definitely seen as a negative correlation to the price of Bitcoin. And so, from the fact that the Feds are going to cut interest rates, and there's the 100% chance that they will cut rates this Wednesday, is going to give some sort of a momentum to Bitcoin. The fact that the traders are split between the 50 bips and the 25 bips this week adds to the drama. So there might be some periods of volatility, some pullback, some craziness that happens on Bitcoin as well. As you know, today it fell by 4% exactly because of this particular aspect of the 59% chance that the Feds might cut interest rates by more than 25 bips, about 50 bips. But the Fed cuts are going to be a long term bull case for BTC. The presidential elections should also be another bull case. The fact that Trump provides a little bit more of a better scenario for Bitcoin than Kamala Harris does. Although Harris has also said things about Bitcoin in favor of Bitcoin, so neither participant is actually against Bitcoin. But I think the market definitely sees Trump as one of the mascots of Bitcoin. More institutes and countries will adopt Bitcoin as a store of currency and value. There could be more microstrategies. There could be more El Salvadors. There's only one halving left in 2040. And as we've seen in the prior sections, the price of Bitcoin generally tends to go up after the halving is complete. So, having said and done, I believe that there is a bull case of Bitcoin to own Bitcoin, and that the price will go up in the future. That's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video on MicroStrategy and Bitcoin and how you can exploit the arbitrages there. If you like this content, do give it a like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.